Hi, I'm Amanda Skelton, an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. Today's tutorial is to show you this lovely pop-up parcels card. I think it's a really nice design to have something a bit different. I'm going to do a different design on the front of the card that I'm going to make today, but the important thing is the dimensions and the technique for getting the pop-up inside the card. This would make a really good, obviously, birthday card with birthday presents. I think it would also make a very good wedding card. You could make it like the tiers of a cake, or wedding presents, just by changing the pattern. So it'd be a really nice card. So that's what I'm going to make today. So what will you need to make that card? Okay. So for the outside of the card, you want some coloured card, and that needs to measure 4 1/4 inches by 11 1/2 inches, and then you want to score that in half at 5 3/4 inches to make the card. And then the insert card, which will become the pop-up, needs to be 4 inches by 11 1/4 inches, and again you need to score that in half at 5 5/8 of an inch. So you can see that it's slightly smaller than the outside of the card. And then I'm going to use a piece of DSP for the whole of the front of the card. So that is measuring 4 1/4 inches by 5 3/4 inches, which is the same size as the actual card front. And then I've got another piece of card which measures 3 inches by 4 inches, and I'm going to make that like a little tag on the front, a little a bit like a bookmark, I suppose, a flag. So I've used Night of Navy card here, Whisper White card, and then this card is paper is retiring actually. It's from the Sail Away card cardstock, and this is crumb cake card as well. Okay, you'll also need some scraps of white card to stamp our detail that we're going to put on here, unless I'm going to do a design that has images stamped and then die cut for the front. If you don't have the dies, you can either fussy cut them so that you can have the images standing up, or you can stamp directly onto this front panel. It's entirely up to you. And then you'll need some also the same pattern as you've got for your front of your card to make the fronts and tops of your boxes. And I'll tell you what those are when we get to those. Okay. Actually, I'll tell you now. So we've got 3 boxes, and then you've got everything in one go. So we've got 3 boxes we need to decorate, if I can get hold of them. And we've also got the sort of strips that make it look like they've got the ribbon around them as well. Okay, so again, you want to make sure that you've got the same card, or you don't have to, but I've got the same pattern as the front of my card. And if you've got an obvious direction, then you obviously want to make sure they're all the right way up as well. So the big box, that needs to be 2 inches across by 1 3/8 up. This card, this piece needs to be 1 1/2 inches across by 1 1/8 up. And the smaller box, you need 2 of these, one for the front of the box, one for the front of the box and one for the top. These are both the same size, and they are 1 inch by 7/8 of an inch. And then you need some pieces of card. Again, you can use scraps. Again, I'm using the Night of Navy to go with the cardstock I've used. So for the large, they all measure 1/4 inch wide. Sorry, no, not 1/4 inch at all, 1/8 inch wide. So they're not very wide at all. So they're all 1/8 inch, and then you need different lengths. So the large length you need 2 centimeters, and this one you need to be 1 3/8 of an inch. This one you need to be 1 1/2 inches, and this one needs to be 1 1/8 of an inch. And you've got 2 on here. This one needs to be 1 inch by 3/4 and then 7/8 of an inch, and then this one needs to be 1 inch, which is just to go across. Okay, so that's all the boxes that we should need. Later on, I'll just keep those all together once I've cut them. It just makes it easier to assemble in a minute. Okay, so let's work on the front. So I'm going to take my insert out. So we're going to just layer up the front piece of card. I'm going to use my silicone craft sheet, and I'm going to use my tape, glue tape. You can use your liquid glue if you'd prefer. Might be easier to make sure that it goes onto your card properly. I just use my fingers just to guide the card. There you go. And there I've got my front there. Okay, so I'll put that to the side for the minute. And then what I'm going to do is I've measured up from the bottom. I've measured up ½ an inch, and then I've just measured across because this is 3 inches wide, just for the middle line. That is measured at 1.5 inches, and I've done that so that I can then use my scissors and use that as a guide to cut out sort of my flag end. If you want to, you can also draw your diagonals from the end so that you can see where you're cutting. But there you go, that just makes it a flag end. And I'm just going to rub out my pencil markings, but you could always use the other side of the card. Okay, so I'm going to use the By the Dock stamp set, and I'm also going to use the Dockside dies for this design that I'm making. It makes a really nice mail card. So I'm going to use the Happy Birthday sentiment, and I'm going to use the oars for this design. You could obviously use anything you want off of here. So I've got, I'm going to use Night of Navy ink just to link it back to the base of the card, and I've got my Happy Birthday stamp, and I'm going to do this first because then you can position the others where you want. Okay, so I've got that there. And then what I'm going to do, I've already made 4, but I will show you how I make them because I shall do the 5th. So then I'm going to have the oars going across like this. And then I'm going to make a 5th one to go here. Okay, so I'm going to use, like I said, I've got the stamp here, and then I'm going to use the oar die. So I've got my stamp. This is where you need some scraps of white card. As you can see, this is where I've stamped and die cut the original for. So I'm using crumb cake, again goes with the cardstock I've used. And then I'm just going to stamp that on. And then get my die cutting machine. And this is quite a small die, so it can be a bit fiddly sometimes to get it in line. And to keep it in line, make sure all your plates are in line. Place it down carefully so it doesn't move. There you go, and there's our oar for that one. Right, so we can get rid of that one for now. So now I've got my 5th oar for here. Okay. So like I said, if you haven't got the dies that match this, you can stamp it directly onto your card. Or you can obviously fussy cut it as well. Okay, so let's stick those down. And I'm going to stick those down with glue, with glue tape. Okay, so you just want to make sure that you try and keep them straight and try and keep the edges all straight as well. I'm having mine slightly overlapping, and then I'm just trying to be mindful of keeping the same gap either side. If you want to, you can put guides down each side so that you're keeping them straight. I just tend to do mine by eye. And then we'll just stick the last one on. And obviously you want to try and keep the same gaps between them as well. Okay, so what I'm going to also add is I've got some some braided linen trim here, which is quite nice, and then I'm just going to put a piece of that along the bottom just to finish it off. And then because that is going to go behind that first piece of card, I'm going to raise this up with some foam pads just so that it's it stands up, and also that's not going to be very flat if you try and stick that down. So I'm going to use again, I'm going to use my glue tape. So you want to make sure that it's sort of below the oars, and then just tuck it behind once you've got your glue on there. If you want to, you can put liquid glue obviously on there as well. I'm going to then add some foam pads, and what is always good to do is add a foam pad on top of your bit of ribbon, because that way it's another way of making sure that the ribbon is stuck to the card. Just an added level of support there. And then I'm going to put one in the middle. And then one at either top edge. Okay, so this will become the front of the card, which is quite a nice, it's quite a simple pattern to do, and you could actually replace, obviously if you can make it different colours and different designs. I've made a sample of a different tag you could have there, and obviously you can make that different colours, and that could easily be a female card as well as a male card. So, or if you've got like vases or something like that, you could have a row of vases across here. So, I shall stick that down. I can do that now actually. Thank God for nails, eh? So you can get these silly little protective strips off. And it's up to you, you might want to do it straight from the top. I'm going to have a bit of a gap, and obviously I've got a stripe on here, so I can use the stripe to make sure it's nice and straight. And there you have your nice front panel. Okay, so now on to the complicated part, which is the inside. So let's get rid of the ribbon. Right, so you've got your insert, and you're going to need to fold it in half and have your folded side towards you. Now, you can use a ruler as normal, or if you want to, you can use your trimmer to do the work for you. So what I tend to do is use my trimmer to do my measuring, and I use the cutting gauge here. I use a pencil and I use that to draw my lines. So the measurements you need, we're going to draw 3 lines up from the fold, so you need the folded edge towards you. We're going to draw 3 lines up from the bottom. Okay, the measurements you need are, the first one needs to be 1.5 inches, so we've got 1.5 inches here. I'm going to close this down and I'm going to use the gap here to draw my line. Okay, on the Stampin' Up trimmer, it's also worth noting that each of these is 1/4 inch. So 1, 2, so 1/4, half, 3/4, 1 inch, 1 1/4, 1 1/2. Because in a minute, when you want to do 1 1/2, you're not going to be able to see where you're drawing because you're going to be going over the next line. So the gap between the line you've just drawn and the next line is going to be 1 1/4 inches. So this is where you're not going to be able to see where it is in relation to here. So 4 is 1 inch and 1/4. So I'm going to draw my line level. So 5 gaps is going to be 1 1/4 inches. Again, I'm going to draw my line. The next one next line you need to draw is 1 inch. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4 is going to be my 1 inch. Okay, and again, these are all from your folded edge. What you need to do now is turn it onto its edge, and from each edge you're going to measure more lines. So for this first section, we're going to draw a line 1 inch in. So again, I'm using my ruler here. So 1 inch here. The next line needs to be 1 1/4. So because I'm seeing where I am here, so that's 1 1/4. And that's from the first and second line. Haven't done that very well, have I? Still haven't. That's better. And then the third line, between the second and third line, needs to measure 1 1/2 inches. So again, you can use your side gauge for this. Okay, and then you want to do exactly the same from the other side. So you want to draw a line from 1 inch. Then you want 1 1/4 inches. And then you want 1 1/2 inches. Okay, so those are your lines. You can see how it's looking like the boxes already. Okay, so again, just to make sure, the wider box should be at the fold. Okay, what you need to do now is open up your card so it isn't folded anymore, and we're going to score these lines. So we're going to score each of these lines, but only as far as these lines. We're going to have 3 scores. So I'm going to use my score on here. Again, on your gauge, you can see there's a line here. I'm going to use that to know where to position and start my scoring and finish. So hopefully you can see there. You can probably see it on that side better. So I've got a score, and it goes along this line to both of those. So on my next one, and the good thing about the score tool on here is it doesn't score until you actually press it down. Okay, and then I'm going to do on my third one. Okay, so I've got my 3 lines here. Right, so next thing you'll need is scissors. You want to fold it back up again, and this time we're going to cut up each of these lines, but in between doing so we need to fold. Again, you can use your paper trim if you want to. Right, so once you've done that, you've got your score lines here. You want to burnish it forward, so you make a nice long line there, and then you want to unfold your card, and just be careful because they sort of stick together a bit here. What you want to do then is push it inside that way, so you've got that folded element inside now. Okay, just to show you there. Okay, when we cut this line, we only want to cut through the first sheet of the card, not the second card here. We only want to cut through here. So try and hold on to the first piece of card here, and then you can cut up the next line. Okay, and again, you just need to make sure that you hold on to the front piece of card only. Use your other finger to keep the second piece further away if you need to. I'm not sure I've quite got that to the end of the, so again, keep hold of it all together so it's all nice in line. I'm not sure I've quite got it to the end. And the same with the side, I just need to make sure. There you go, I'm happy with that. Okay, so again, this front piece, because you haven't cut this back piece, you should have that piece still intact. That should be bigger than this piece. You then need to fold this one again. Try and make sure it's all nice and flat and straight. And again, pull that down, and then you just need to unfold it here, and then push that one through. Okay, and then you'll be doing the same for the last one. Again, you've got 2 sheets here. You need to just hold the first sheet. And then cut up those lines. And then again, fold. So you've got 2 pieces of card here, which you've had on all 3 of the boxes. And again, fold that. And then fold that back through. Just give all those nice burnish. And then, if you turn it around, there is your pop-up box. Okay, so now we're going to decorate these boxes. So I've given you the measurements for these. What you need to make sure though, and you might want to trim these down a little bit if by the time you've cut these out it isn't quite the same. You need to make sure obviously that they're the same width. I can see there it's slightly off. You need to make sure that the depth of this card is not too deep so that you cannot then fold it back down again. When I first made this card, I made these pieces too deep, which meant that it wouldn't then fold down back into the card. So you need to make sure it's just a little bit shallower, so I can see that this is. I am just going to trim that though because I can see it's slightly wider. So again, you need to adjust this to make sure that it fits the boxes that you've actually cut. So again, I'm going to glue these on. made sure that I've made all of these okay, so each time you glue one, just make sure that it folds down nicely, and then you know that you haven't gone too far. Right, and then the next one, actually let's do, so we can actually do this as well, otherwise we'll lose where our pieces are. So again, I'm just going to trim that slightly. And again, I'm going to use my glue stick and then just put that in the middle, and then the next piece, if you've got any glue over the outside, just make sure they go back to the back, otherwise you're going to stick your card together when you close it. And then that needs to just be up through the middle there. Okay, again that's still closing down nicely, so we'll do the next one. And again, remember, if you've got patterns, make sure that you're sticking them up the right way, or the same way at least. Right, I can see that's slightly too wide as well. I should have checked that before I actually tried to glue it down. Would have made it a whole lot easier. Okay, and then I'm just making sure, yeah, that all closes down nicely. Again, just make sure the glue, that won't have any glue on now, will it, because it's stuck to my fingers. Just need to make sure I just rub the sides down just with my fingers like that, and then I can feel that it's not sticky anymore. Okay, I can see that that's gone over the edge a little bit, but at least once it's on like this, we can just snip that easy enough. Alright, was that the piece for there? Still got it stuck to my fingers. Otherwise everything I touch will stick to it now. Alright, again, just snip that. And then you want to try and make sure you keep these in line. So that that piece is in line with that piece. Okay. I haven't particularly got very contrasting colour here, but it goes with the card. So then we've got our third piece here. But this time I shall check it before I stick it. A tiny bit to take off again. Again, just make sure it all nicely folds down. I think because of the width of these pieces, actually, you probably are going to be better off with liquid glue, so that you don't end up with the glue all on the edges. As I said, otherwise when you close it down, it's all going to stick to here. Unless you do what I'm doing and then just... Okay. Again, a little bit of excess. I'll just snip that one off. Again, make sure that it's in line with the others. That looks like two H's, doesn't it? Okay, And then we've got the final lid of the box, of the very top box that you can see. I did it again, didn't I? I didn't check it. So again, I'm just going to take off, right, so because this is going to be that, you want to make sure that if you've got a wide edge and a narrower edge, that it all matches up. So again, I'm just going to take a small slice off of there, and then that should fit on nicely. Again, make sure that you avoid the folded edges. And again, just make sure that it all folds down nicely, which it does. Again, I can see that the glue is over the edges, and this one just needs to go across. And that still folds down nicely. And there you can see you've got your boxes. If you want to, you can put a ribbon bow on it if you want to. Because I've got the theme of the oars, I think I might just put a little bit of detail inside. So I'm going to use my crumb cake ink again. And I think I might do like a crisscross. Oars there, just to add a bit of detail inside. Okay, so now we're effectively ready to glue it together. So again, I am going to use my glue tape. So you just want to make sure that you glue, avoiding all of those boxes that you've cut out. So we're not going to glue any of this, but we are going to make sure we glue these edges as close as we can so that it stays stuck to the card and only the boxes. So I'm going to glue here and glue here. There as well. You obviously want to make sure as well that you're gluing the side that have got all your lines on, because that's going to be the inside. So I'm just going to glue there, glue there, glue there, glue there, glue there. Okay, so that looks good. Right, when you glue this together, don't glue it like that, because if you do, it isn't going to fold again. It's going to be too bulky in the middle. What I suggest you do is fold it in half and offer that up to the middle of the card. Make sure that the bottom section is nice and square, and then close. Oh, didn't do that very well, did I? Close the lid onto it. Okay. So what you want to do is make sure that your box is nice and square, and that your top level is nice and square as well. Okay. And there, because it will never open fully again, you can feel it's resisting there, but you want it to stand up like that, so that's the main thing, and that it will close down because you want to post it. Okay, so that is your pop-up card. Oh, what have I done there? Oh, look, see? There you go. That's better, isn't it? I wonder what's going on there. I don't quite know why that stuck. I think it was just because it was flat. Okay, let's just make sure that one pops out. And there you have a really nice pop-up card. Hope you've enjoyed this card. I think it would be quite a nice card, especially for a wedding. I got the inspiration for this card from Jambi. She makes some brilliant designs. So thank you for allowing us to case that, Jan, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. As always, my Stampin' Up website is www.amandascraftedcards.stampingup.net, and you can find all the products there. And as of today, the new catalogue is going live next week, so if you want some of these products, especially the papers, you want to order those sooner rather than later. Okay, thank you very much for watching.